I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Elda Macias. I'm with Ameriprise Financial. I'm Vice President of Retirement and Segment Marketing. And I know I've had a wonderful time here today. Every time I'm part of the advisory panel, and I've had a chance to hear the research, and every time that I hear it, I learn something new and think of a new way that we can maybe incorporate this and make a change. So I'm very excited at the fact that we're all here today thinking about how we can move this work forward. So thank you for having me. And I feel very privileged and honored to be with this group of incredible people as part of the advisory panel, and just really look forward to continuing the work and seeing where we can go from here. And I'm very proud of the firm of Ameriprise for sponsoring this. We had some internal conversations when we found out that this research was being done, and immediately said we have to get involved. We have to sponsor this, because for us, we believe that women will make great financial planners. It's a great career for women, and more women in the industry means that we make a great impact and a positive impact on the diverse communities and clients that we serve. So it's a win-win for everyone. And one of our advisory members, Kathleen McQuiggan, is one of the women that has very likely overcome many challenges that come with being in this industry. And she has, I'm certainly served as a role model, so we'll have an opportunity to hear from her. I met Kathleen a few years ago when we were talking about women on boards, and her passion and support for the cause just, made me a fan of hers. So I'm very excited to hear her today. Kathleen is currently a Senior Vice President of Global Women's Strategies for Pax World Management, LLC. She has more than 20 years of experience in the financial services industry, and much of that time focused on increasing the industry's understanding and responsiveness to the financial planning needs of women. In her management role at Pax, Kathleen is responsible for the firm's initiatives related to gender diversity and women's empowerment, including efforts to advance gender equity as an investment concept. She also leads the firm's Women and Wealth Practice Management Initiative, focused on helping financial advisors build their practices and enhance their services to attract women investors. Prior to working with Pax, she was a vice president at Goldman Sachs for 13 years and currently serves on the YWCA Boston Board of Directors. She's co-president of 85 Broad's Boston chapter and a member of the advisory board of Women Invest. So please join me in welcoming Kathleen.
Good afternoon, everyone, and Elda, thank you so much for that kind introduction. And I want to thank all of you for joining us here today to be part of this conversation. It's really an exciting day for the CFP Win Initiative, and really this discussion on making room for women in the financial planning profession. I'd also like to give a little shout out to Nancy as well, because I think, Nancy, your persistence and passion, also not settling for the status quo and asking why we don't have more women CFPs, and for making this really an issue and on the agenda of the CFP organization. We really appreciate your leadership for all the work that's been done today. And Marilyn and Eleanor, we owe you many thanks. Your commitment, energy, and I would say the relentless pursuit of finding some solutions to answer that question, why not more women? So thank you, both of you, for really helping us get this to where we are today, which is a room full of great power, energy, and a community. And lastly, to my fellow WIN advisory panel members, it's been a pleasure working with all of you, and I feel really it's been a privilege to be part of this group. And so I'm looking forward for what we're going to accomplish from here. And thank all of you for taking the time to be investing in yourselves today and in investing in the CFP Win Initiative. So today I'd like to share with you a bit about my journey and the path that has led me to where I am today, participating in a discussion that I'm really passionate about, and that's investing in women. And I must say, it's been great to hear passion. I thought Peter's research that the word love had not been used so many times in the CFP profession. I'm thinking, I love women's events. Man, they are just so great. So why do I think investing in women is an imperative for every organization today, and why now? And what in my life has led me to this conclusion? So there's a great book out there that some of you may be familiar with, entitled All I Need to Know I Learned in Kindergarten, by Robert Fulghum. So has anyone read that book? It was on the New York Times bestseller list for 2 years. And it reminds me of how the things we learned in kindergarten really do shape us as the people we are. And for me, some of the things I learned from that book remind me to always be nice, to look both ways before I cross the street, and to remember to flush. You know, the really important stuff. But what I also learned in kindergarten, my kindergarten years, was supplemented by two things that I believe really gave me the opportunities got me to where I am today. The first is Title IX, and the second is the Fair Credit Act. So some of you might say, why these two things? Well, Title IX got me a college education on an athletic scholarship. And the Fair Credit Act, I can't imagine that there was a time when women could not get a credit card in their own name. But that was only 40 years ago that was the case. Women also were just allowed into Harvard Business School just 50 years ago. They've recently had a big celebration for that fact. But some of us might be familiar with the New York Times article last September that highlighted some of the school's efforts to deal with gender inequality today, in 2013, 2014. So some progress has been made. 41% of this year's entering class of MBAs at Harvard were women, up from 35% 10 years ago, and up from 25% at the class of 1985. In fact, this year there was a record number of Baker Scholars, those scholars that are the top 5% of Harvard's graduating class. 38% of Baker Scholars this year were women. However, currently only 9% of Harvard's case studies, which account for over 80% of the case studies at business schools around the world, have women as protagonists. The point I'm trying to make is that gender inequality still exists today. And that is why we are all here to discuss how we can be promoting gender equality, especially in advancing more women into the ranks of the CFP profession, and close some of the gender gaps that we identified earlier today. And not only because it's the right thing to do, but because it's also good for business. So back to my story. Over 20 years ago, I fell into the wonderful world of Wall Street. Now, it was not a glamorous start. In fact, I started off as a sales assistant. So how many of you in the room kind of came into this business either through a sales assistant or CSA route? Okay. I was making $18,000 a year. I thought I was big, which in today's dollars is about $30,000. But from the moment I sat on that trading floor, I knew this was going to be an opportunity that was going to take me down an amazing path. And at that point, I said, the heck with being the sales assistant, I want to be the broker. So that's what I did. Fast forward, the next thing I know, I'd spent over 20 years on Wall Street as an institutional salesperson, where I spent most of my time helping take companies public and working with institutional money managers that were investing money on the behalf of many of us here in our rooms, whether it's through your 401k, through the mutual funds you own. And over the years, I attended hundreds and hundreds of investor meetings, and they all had one thing in common. It was usually me and the men. Now, most of the time, I didn't let that bother me. But over the years, I really felt like there was an injustice being done and a missed opportunity, particularly by financial services firms, by not having more women at all levels of their organizations. Women in management, women on the board, women as financial advisors, women as CFPs. In fact, one little side story, I remember specifically one IPO meeting we were doing with a company, Bare Essentials. I don't know if any of you are familiar. Okay, I love women's conferences. So Bare Essentials. It was one of the rare times, female CEO, female COO, myself, and then their CFO was a male. So it was 3 women and 1 man. And we go into one of the largest money managers in the world. We go into this big conference room. We sit down at the table, the 4 of us on this one side, and there was about 6 guys on the other side staring at us. And the CEO starts to give her presentation about this amazing mineral-based makeup company she has and just how it's really just sales expectations are exceeding it. She's got a great business plan, fascinating business. And I looked there as she was speaking, and I watched that the men on the other side of the table, there was a disconnect. They were not speaking the same language. And at one point, one gentleman raised his hand. He said, "I'm sorry, but I don't think anyone's going to pay $40 for makeup." So, I don't know about you ladies, but nothing comes between me and my products. And it really, I mean, that was just captured to me where there was, this fund, its shareholders was missing an opportunity to own a hyper-growth company that was led by a woman, that was having a different perspective, because, the person sitting across the table, it wasn't like the person they were talking to. So, anyways, back to my story. So in 2009, after watching that happen, in the worst economic environment ever, I quit the most successful investment bank ever. And after I reassured my parents that their 40-year-old plus daughter was not going to be moving back in with them, I found myself becoming an advocate for the business case, for why every organization needs to be having the conversation, why women, why now, and have it as an agenda item for the discussion of every senior level conversation. Now, what do I mean by investing in women? It can mean a lot of different things. It can mean supporting and working with women-owned businesses. It can mean mentoring, coaching, or being a sponsor for fellow female colleagues. It can be investing your 401k in companies that have women on the boards and on their senior leadership team. Or it can mean putting your philanthropic dollars to work by supporting organizations that are advancing issues most important to women and girls. All of us sitting here in this room today can be helping advance gender equality, in the CFP ranks in particular. Don't underestimate the power that we here all today have. So how much power do we have? Well, let's take a look. Women are becoming a major economic force. Women today start new businesses at twice the rate of men and comprise some 43% of Americans with gross assets of 1.5 million or more. According to the latest government figures, women own 40% of U.S. businesses and contribute $4 trillion to the nation's economy. Women are breadwinners or co-breadwinners in 2/3 of American households. In the United States, women outnumber men in the attainment of college degrees by 20%. Today, high school valedictorians, 72% of them are women. If women entrepreneurs started with the same capital that their male entrepreneurs did, we'd be adding 6 million jobs to the U.S. economy in 5 years and 2 million jobs within the first year. And as Newsweek reported in their July 2010 issue, women are the biggest emerging market in the history of the planet. So in addition to these economic trends, more women are in the driver's seat of their investment and wealth management decisions as well. 45% of American millionaires today are women, and by 2030, that number is projected to be roughly two-thirds of the nation's wealth will be in the hands of females. Women continue to gain ground as high net worth earners as well, with 40% of working women now out-earning their husbands. But here's the problem. Even with all this power, gender inequality still exists today. I don't know if some of you have seen, but Women Deliver has just put up this great infographic on hosting a number of different segments, but on investing in equality, 64% of illiterate adults today are women. That's 2 out of 3. Women make up only 21.4% of the parliamentary seats and 8% of the world's executives. 95% of countries have a male head of state, and more than 100 countries have laws in the books that restrict women's participation in the economy. The wage gap. Talked a little bit earlier today about the gap between male and female advisors and their pay, with there being a $32,000 difference. Women still earn on average 77 cents on a dollar. And this is not just what has happened over time. The American Association of University Women is currently tracking this wage gap. And even today, do you know that the difference in salary for business majors 1 year out of school between male and female graduates? Women earn just over $38,000, while men are earning just over $45,000. And within leadership roles of companies, there are still gender gaps. In the Fortune 500, only about 4% of CEOs are currently women. And in board seats, 16.9% of Fortune 500 board seats are held by women. The good news, it's up from last year, 16.6. Not much progress has been made there. And for the first time in 2013, women finally hit a new high by comprising 20% of Senate seats. So if the sheer numbers aren't getting to you, then think about the message we're sending to the next generation of women leaders. Women leaders like my niece. I get to be the proud aunt. So I have 4 nieces. They range in age from 6 to 16. And don't think for a moment that this 6-year-old doesn't rule the roost. And I wonder what will happen in the world this year while she's in kindergarten. That might be her defining moments. For her, that might allow her to be anything she wants to be. I wonder if one day she is going to be able to say, I can be a CEO, I can get a corporate board seat, or I'm going to go become a CFP. So why am I so concerned over this? Well, I'm not so sure she can be anything she wants to be, and I think some of us worry about the messages that we've sent over the years. So how many of you are familiar with the Girl Scouts campaign to get her there? I've got a few, okay. So the Girl Scouts launched a national campaign to get her there, I think a little over a year ago. And they launched this after they conducted a survey of over 1,000 girls, ranging in age from 8 to 17. To see if those girls thought that there were barriers in their ability to assume leadership roles. Well, do you want to know what they found? Among the key findings were that 3 in 9 girls rarely thought they could become a corporate executive. That's 1/3 of the girls. Well, I want to help change this story. Do you? Think about your daughters, your granddaughters, maybe your nieces. Do you think that they can grow up to be anything they want to be? Well, my niece struggle with the chutes and ladders challenges that some women are seeing as they pursue their CFP certification. There is still some gender bias playing a role in the underrepresentation of women in financial services firms, and also business models that could maybe use some tweaking that could be a bit more attractive to women as well. And we all need more visible role models so young girls today can see what successful financial planning professionals look like. As I've heard Marie Wilson often say, you can't be what you can't see. In fact, I think we are at a tipping point today where the business case for gender diversity is more apparent than ever. McKinsey has an extremely impactful Women Matter series that talks about how women contribute to financial performance and the overall organizational health of a company. Harvard Business Review last year did a study showing if you want to make teams smarter, do you know what you do? You add a woman, and the team's collective intelligence rises. Many of you are familiar with Catalyst. They've done great work really showing the financial materiality that women add to the bottom line. A study of French companies found that those with more women in the management withstood the 2008 market downturn better than those companies with fewer women in management. Credit Suisse, their research institute last year, did a study of over almost 2,400 global companies and found that companies with women directors outperformed companies without women directors in return on equity, average growth, and price-to-book value multiples. The bottom line, companies with at least one woman director had better share price performance than those companies without women for the last 6 years. The CED, the Committee for Economic Development, published a report last year entitled Fulfilling the Promise: How More Women on Corporate Boards Would Make American and American Companies More Competitive, highlighting that American business leaders need to use all available talent to succeed in today's global competitive markets, and that talent will be increasingly coming from women. I could go on and on and on and on, but hopefully you get the point. Joe Keefe, who is the CEO and president of Pax World, I think really articulates this so well. When women are at the table, good things happen. The conversation is richer, the decision-making process is better, teams are more innovative and collaborative, and the entire organization is stronger. So I'm here today to ask you to help me with my niece in kindergarten. I'd like to be able to tell her, make yourself the best you can be, educate yourself, learn a business, build your network, and one day you could become a CFP or even a CEO of a company. And we here today can all make this happen, for my niece, for your daughters, for your granddaughters. As my friend Jackie Zahner always says, you can't do everything, but you can do something. So I would challenge all of you today to commit to one thing that you will do when you go back to your office. What one action can you take to increase gender equality and women's leadership in your company and in the world? We also have a nice little to-do at the back of if you're looking for ideas, at the back of the report that can give you some suggestions if you need help in thinking of that one thing. It could be investing your 401k in companies that support women. It could be making sure your organization is promoting a level playing field for all women professionals. Or it could be making sure that women and girls today are seeing many of the successful financial planning women we have in this room today. The decision is ours. Are we going to take advantage of this opportunity to eliminate gender inequality and empower women on a global basis as an urgent moral and economic imperative? Or are we going to make the mistake of ignoring some of these vital trends? I live in Boston, and so yesterday the marathon was really cool. I would say, though, as I was plodding, and I say plodding, it was not running, yesterday morning out on the Boston Common, I did 2.6 miles, and let me tell you, 26.2, they're my heroes. So, but as I was plodding with all the excitement and energy in the city really over the weekend, it just got me thinking that we have an opportunity as a community. And Boston really came together as a community to rally behind the people that were hurt, just some of the tragedy, but they really came together as a community. And I was just thinking as I was heading down to New York, we have an amazing community here within the CFP. And we've got a lot of great work that is being started with the CFP Win Initiative. And I think there's an opportunity for this community to kind of leverage all our power to try and make change happen. So all of us here today can help be part of the solution and be investing in women, not only because it's the right thing to do, but because it's good for business. So thank you.
Thank you, Kathleen. We have time for just a couple questions for Kathleen. Just raise your hand. I have a question if nobody has one. So you're part of 85 Broads.
Yes.
I would be interested in hearing kind of what you think the perspective of Wall Street is on women financial advisors.
Yeah. So 85 Broads, for those of you not familiar, it's a global women's networking organization that's been around since 1997, founded by Janet Hansen, and last year Sally Krawcheck and her business partner Allison McDonald purchased 85 Broads. And they really are trying to take this concept of investing in women and really get tools out there for individuals. It's a network to help with your professional development, to be investing in yourself. I think more companies are realizing, particularly financial services industry, and there are some great experts out in the audience that have done a lot of good work advancing some of these issues, but I think financial services firms are almost desperate to get more women really in at all levels of their organizations. There are a lot of programs, they're committing a lot of money. They realize, similar to some of the statistics, the talent of the future looks like many of the women here, the face of many of the women here today. What they're finding, though, is more women are leaving to go start their own businesses because some of the gender gaps and biases that were mentioned earlier that are some hurdles from an organizational standpoint. We do need to level the playing field. I think the financial services industry is well aware they need to make change. They're looking for help and ideas. There are some good organizations, 85 Broads. Ann Weisberg has done some amazing work over her career in trying to help that financial services industry do better as well. So I think they're aware of it, but I still think we need more action to happen, and we need more women that can get pulled up into the senior ranks, because we have found when there's more women on boards, more women in senior management, you do have more women leaders across the entire firm. So I think there's work that has been done, but more needs to be done, and I think some of the suggestions in the WIN report are a good starting point for some companies.
Great.
So.
Thank you very much, Kathleen. Personally, my favorite of everything I need to know was that warm cookies and cold milk are good. So, Kathleen, thank you so much for delivering this address, and thank you all for being here. A special thanks to Ameriprise and TD Ameritrade Institutional for your support of the Women's Initiative. We very much appreciate that. As we move forward, these again are important initiatives for us, and this is not a report that will sit on the shelf, but we believe the time to start on these is now. We invite everyone here to take a look at the report, and as Kathleen said, the last page in the book has things that you can do to help transform the financial planning profession into one that is a place where women can flourish. We welcome the participation of firms, of individuals, of professional associations, and professional men and women in our effort. We hope that you're energized. The amount of good energy in this room has been amazing all day long. Please help us spread the word. The entire report is at cfp.net/win, W-I-N, and have a safe trip home. Thank you very much.